Today, you are going to get a front row seat to the incredible career of 2004 Tri-Nations champion Gaffie Du Toit. Gaffie, welcome to Front Row Rugby.
Thanks, Peter. It's very nice to be here.
Now, before we get started, let's take a look at today's trivia question. In 2000, the Springboks received a new shirt sponsor across the chest area. Name the brand. Now, if you know the answer to the question, you can put it in the comment section down below, and we'll also find out if Gaffie knows the answer, but we'll do that at the end of our conversation. Gaffie, let's go back to 1998. You made your test debut for the Springboks against Ireland in Bloemfontein. Talk to me about that day.
Yeah, Peter, I think as most new Springboks will say, it's a dream come true, and so that's a bit of a cliche, but mine, as a matter of fact, I could remember very clearly. It felt like a real dream in the sense that on that day it was a night game, so they had a lot of firecrackers going off before the game, and there were no wind at all. So all the smoke stayed in the stadium for after that. And when we ran out, it was this smoky environment, cloudy environment, and that really made me feel like this is a dream that I'm running into. So it is I'll never forget that moment. It's that first time you're singing the anthem and. The first game, actually, I think you basically don't remember a lot of that. But I think the first time running out onto that and onto the field, and then that dream feeling, the fact that all that smoke was hanging in the stadium and wasn't going away, that made it feel like a real dream, So that's something I'll never forget. And then, like I said, that 80 minutes goes so fast, People always say you get to a semi-final and finals, and those are quick games. You got to use your opportunities in that. But I don't think a game ever flown past like that as your like the first test you ever play. And you hardly remember anything. It's such a big occasion. So you normally after that, the second or third, you start realizing what's happening to you. And I was also very young. I was very young at that stage, so it was a huge experience.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit the like button?
And then you actually didn't play another test match for the Springboks until almost exactly a year later. I can't remember if you were injured or not. What actually happened?
Yeah, I actually broke a rib. That's what happened in that day. I got tackled from behind. I took a break, and I think I passed it on to Stefan ter Brands. I think he also scored 4 tries on that day. So after I passed the ball, I got a tackle from behind, and I fell funny and skew, and the guy on top of me, and I felt something snap in my rib cage, but I didn't know, it was maybe just a knock. But afterwards, we actually found out I actually popped a rib, and we tried. After that, I think we went to Pretoria or Joburg with the next game, and we tried injecting it, like in the old days we used to do. But yeah, it just couldn't work, and with a broken rib, it's just so difficult, you can hardly breathe or sneeze or sleep or anything, so it was just not going to work, so I think it was Franco Smith or somebody had to replace me if I remember correctly. So yeah, and then I missed out on those games, and then I was lucky enough to be selected again to go on the year-end trip.
You made your debut against Ireland. It was on the 13th of June 1998, and it was the 12th of June 1999, almost exactly a year later, that you played against Italy in your second test match. How enjoyable was it to be back?
I think it's always that first was such a quick thing to happen, and it's and also, like I said, you're so young at that stage. If you go back, and that's a complete discussion, a separate discussion. But I think like 6 months or so before that, I still played club rugby. I've only played Vodacom rugby, no Currie Cup, no Super Rugby, and then got chosen for that. So it was so, everything just happened so quickly. I remember when I met Henri Markgraaff in Kimberley that year, and before I went to Kimberley in '97, he told me that soon he wants me to play for Springboks, and I was like, whatever. I thought, that's maybe in the far future, but not yet. And he thoroughly believed that, the first test that's going to come, I'm going to play, So, and that's also something just to show how some coaches believe in you, and that also boosts you a lot. But anyway, so and it happened like that, So, and it happened so quickly, and then I got injured, and then obviously you just settle again and think that, look, we're gonna work again, and just it's luckily the time went past again, so you can get some more experience and and grow a little bit more, but yeah, so I was just happy to be back again and having another shot at it, and yeah, that's basically it.
And at that stage, what did you think the chances were that you might be the starting fly half at the Rugby World Cup?
Look, like I said, Peter, it was all still maybe in far future for me. World Cup was maybe something I looked at when I've settled in a position, settled in, find my feet. And probably the way you will think, because you're so young and you haven't played a lot of rugby, you would think that always you have to go through certain stages, play a proper Curry Cup, play a proper Super Rugby, lose some big games, win some big games, kick some big kicks and big finals, and have the experience. But obviously, when the opportunity comes your way and you get chosen, then you're not going to say no, I'm not experienced enough. You're going to take it. You're going to see how it goes. That's basically how you would approach it. But yes, I obviously in my dreams was always also going to be, being able to be in a World Cup to represent South Africa. I think it's the ultimate dream for all because the one level is you want to be a Springbok player, then you want to be a good Springbok player for a good period of time, and then you obviously want to go to a World Cup, and if you can be lucky enough, win it. That's probably the focus and the dream goal of everybody. But yeah, I was always going to hope that one day I might be in a World Cup somewhere, which never realized, but that's how it goes.
Talking about those two tests against Italy, we won both of them by very large margins. The second one, we put 100 points on the board. Gaffie, what does it feel like playing in a test match when you were so dominant?
Yeah, Peter, those were the years when your Italys and your Scotlands and your Irelands were still easy games, if you want to say easy games. It was, you would think it's just you run onto the field and there's already 30 points for you on the board. It was like what it was like in the Northern Hemisphere that stage. So if you look back at it now, you can hardly believe it, how things have changed over the past time now. So but yeah, you're dominant, and it's obviously makes it in a way easier. You might look good because you always get ball in the front foot, and your pack is always dominant. And for me, as I'm playing in a flyer position, that makes life much easier. You can get your back line away much easier. You're not under pressure really, to make decisions. Your game plan is all working, and whatever you want to do, you can do because there's not too much pressure. So in a way, that's actually a good way to start. Also, if you're a youngster, So yeah, it was a easy game, if you want to call it like that. But for me, I used it as a learning step because sometime along the line, the big games or the big guns such as New Zealand and Australia and England and those guys are going to come around. So use those easier games, if you want to call it, in that years. To really get settled and that's it. That's basically how I treated it.
Wales were actually a team that were on the up at that stage, and we went to go and play against them in June, which was quite strange at that time because obviously that was the South African season and it was now their summer, and they then became the first Welsh team to beat the Springboks. What do you think went wrong that day? We
were all on the bench. I think it was, is it Bron van Straten or somebody who played fly that day, if I'm right? And I think it was me and Dave. We played scrum. We were on the bench that day playing scrum off. And yeah, it was also a big occasion. I mean, that was the first game in the Millennium Stadium, if I'm not wrong, if I'm right. Look, like I just said, it was a losing against Wales at that stage was a psychological, for the Northern Hemisphere, was psychologically a big boost for them, and for us, obviously, a kick in the gut because you don't want to be the first to lose against a team like that. But like you said, they were on the up. It was a bit of a wake-up call for us in the Southern Hemisphere. And obviously for Nick Mallett being the coach at that stage, I think it also it's put a lot of pressure on him because you never want to be the first team, And then later on, we lost. I think it was that game where we lost against England, also, which was going to be a record win for Nick Mallett, So you don't like to be the ones being the first or the record breakers and going the wrong way, So yeah, it was, but I think it just goes to show how things change. Even though we were the dominant in the Southern Hemisphere comparing to the Northern Hemisphere at that stage, it was just, I think it was the start of things to change and look at where we are at the moment, So but it's for the good. Rugby is good, and it's good that it's so balanced out now. Where the Northern Hemisphere is caught up, basically, if you want to say that. They have not really caught up. I think they might be slightly ahead if you look at things now, France and Ireland at the moment. But yeah, it wasn't easy, especially if you're young. And I think we came on right at the end. You couldn't really do anything about it. You could just try and play your game and take the shot on the chin and go on, and just go back to the drawing board again and recover and look at the next game.
Gaffie, I've heard from some of the other Springboks that I've had on this show in the past that before that test match against Wales, Rian Oberholzer came to speak to the players and caused disruptions among the squad. I know that you were one of the younger guys, one of the newer guys in the squad at that stage, but is there anything that you can tell me about that?
To be honest, Peter, I've got a slight. I can remember something like that, but like you say, I was so young. I think we can't. I can't remember really anything. I think if there was something that happened, it was probably discussed between him and the senior players, which was like Joost and Andre Venter and Mark Andrews and those guys who were the main guys and the senior guys. So I can't really recall the detail of all of that. Like I said, I think I was just so caught up in the fact that I'm a youngster and you just do whatever they say you need to do and get ready for the test, that I didn't really focus on the politics or whatever it was on the side at that stage. I won't be able to recall anything in detail to tell you what was exactly the story.
Sure. And then after that test match, the Tri-Nations began 1999 and we went to New Zealand and we got beaten in Dunedin 28-0. You and David van Hesselen were the starting halfbacks. There's quite a few questions I have for you about that day. But let's begin with the actual match. How do you remember that fixture?
I think all of the guys in that game would tell you that, it was obviously by that stage also pressure on Nick and pressure on the team, having to perform and I think the pressure that we were at that stage also chasing that record of 18 games at that stage. I think it was at record, but yeah, I think just looking at it from a realistic or natural point of or practical point of view, we arrived there and it was all wet and windy and rainy, and we were basically planned according to that. And then on the day we woke up and it was this perfect. Picture perfect day, and basically on our way on the bus, we got called and say, listen, we have to change things around and have a different strategy. And like I said again, we were still just so young that we, it more, I think, started making us more nervous, and also the build up towards the week. I personally felt a lot of pressure in the sense that I could realize there's Nickers under pressure, and I could realize that me and Dave having to fill big shoes in the sense we had to fill Joost and Henry Honeyball's shoes. Personally, I know there was a lot of pressure from the media also on Nick, because I was on flyhalf, the new blood coming through, and Nick was by far not done with a guy like Henry, and Henry was an extremely good player. We were completely different players, but I think the media also put a lot of pressure on Nick that, you to start looking at me going forward, World Cup coming, and Henry, the people maybe thought was done. And I think that also, Nick made it in a way a bit personal in the fact that he wanted to show people that, his guy is still a good guy, So I think it was a good opportunity when we didn't come off in that game for him to say, listen, there you go. These guys are not ready yet, So, and you can have a lot of discussions about it. It wasn't nice. It wasn't good. I think it's not supposed to be like that. It takes a lot of time for you as a youngster to recover from a psychological shot like that, because it's your dream, that you want to be there. And I think if you have it again today, and I believe if Nick can have it again today, he'll probably have it different, I mean, we were all good rugby players, whether it was Henry Honeyball and Joost at the time, world-class players, or me and Van Hesselen coming through. It was just a matter of treating the situation a bit different, and not just throwing you out for the wolves and then using you as the culprit or the scapegoat, that you're the guys that's causing the thing. So I had bad games in the past before that, but never had I coaches not backing me. So if you do something on the field, even if it's a difficult situation, they back the decision you make. They actually take it on themselves. They would go afterwards, and even if I would have done something for Griquas at that stage, and it would have been completely out the game plan because it's something I saw on the field and I do it and it didn't come off. Andre Markro would go afterwards and say, I told Gaffie to do that. And then he never did, but he would back me in such a way, So that was it, So it's just a different people, different pressures, different politics. And the bad thing is we got the shot and we were made the culprits, and it's wrong, but that's how it happened. Peter, you can't do nothing about it. It's just the way you have to now recover after that. So it took us a while. It took me a while psychologically. I actually thought I want to give up playing rugby because how can this ever be that a guy at this level would blame me for this? And then, why would I work to be back in that team again if this is what it's going to happen when I come there and it's not going well, So yeah, it took a while, but I mean, I got over it. And today, looking back at it, it was a big life lesson. I would always be appreciative of that in the sense, that it was a big life lesson for me that I could go forward. And after that, look, I had my career still ahead of me at that stage, so I could just take that and learn from it and go forward. And so that was it, and I still had good times. I played for the Boks again. I played Currie Cup and Super Rugby again. Yeah, and I had to just learn from that. It's all I could have done, so.
That's an incredible story. Gaffie, you've actually answered my next two questions there as well. So let me ask you this. What was your relationship like with Nick Mallett?
Look, it was a difficult man to work with. He's a very strong personality. He's got no gray areas, which is a good thing. He knows what he wants. He knows what game plan he wants to play. He knows what he wants you to do. And obviously me at that stage being so young, coming from a small town Afrikaans background, there was a bit of a feeling that Nick has got this thing against small town Afrikaans guys. I know there were politics around that also at the time, and guys like me and Griquas, good players coming through was guys like Lawrence Venter, guys like Robert Markram, guys like Albert van der Berg, Philip Smith. We started coming through as good rugby players, but we got that feeling that, you're from, where's Griquas, where's this small town, and then even further back, the school, if I had to tell people what school I am, and even my name, Gaffie Du Toit, Gaffie was like a funny name. Where the hell does this name come from? So I speak Afrikaans. I could hardly speak a word of English at the time. So you got the feeling that, that's maybe something that's now counting against you, So that's that in a way. I think personality wise, that clashed a bit, So I would say, I also worked with coaches before that from my school days who were very good coaches, who also had different personality types than me personally. But in a way, we accommodated each other. We respected each other's beliefs, our cultures, our languages, or whatever. But we looked at the person, not the person, we looked at the talent, And I worked with Doc Gert Pool, who was the assistant coach with Andre Markov. He's a difficult guy. He's a guy that takes his rugby serious, and he's a strong personality, and he tells you straight what he thinks about you and how you play, but you never feel like he would personally attack you. It's always, I would get so angry at that man on the field. But then tonight when I go back, I would realize he's right. He's right. What he said was right. He is actually, he's looking at what you're doing wrong, and he knows you've got this talent. And he's just looking at the talent that he's working with, not the person, So you always had that feeling. But I think with Nick at the time, there was more thing. It started getting personal in a way, So, and I know also a guy like Gary Teichmann, which is, by the way, probably one of the best captains I ever played with. Such a great guy and personality, and such a great leader. And I think. I don't know. He must maybe one day tell yourselves, or tell himself if that's true or not. But I actually got the feeling towards the end of his career, and the reason he missed out on that '99 World Cup, I think it might be because he started coming up for some of the guys, me I think included, against a guy like Nick. I think that's maybe what I think happened. I don't know if it's true. That's just my feeling I had at the time. And I would always, if that's the truth, I would always, say, a guy like that coming up for you against somebody like Nick at that stage. And I know Nick and Gary Teichmann actually had a very, very good relationship, and if that was the reason, then, he sacrificed himself in a way, and I will always be very respectful of that if that is the case indeed, So yeah, that's it in a way. I don't know if it answers your question, but I mean, coming down to personality, there was definitely a bit of a clash, and which was sad because it shouldn't be. There should be different personalities. Look at our cultures now and the variations in our team now, and I'm sure that's one thing that Rassie is doing well. He's able to mix all the different cultures, and it's not about the culture. It's about getting the best out of everybody in that team and making them work together for the same goal. I mean, doesn't matter what you're doing off the field, as long as you're in between the four lines, then it's all the same goal, and we all respect each other. That's basically what it needs to come down to.
So that was 1999, Gaffie. You were out of the picture then until 2004 when Jake White became the Springbok coach, and Jake brought you back into the setup. How much different was the Springbok squad in the 5 years that you had been gone?
Look, yeah, I think when I got to Jake, I had the first, I think, real experience of what it feels like to be a professional. That's something that I will always think if I look at Jake, the way he approached the guys and the way he worked with guys. And look, before him, wasn't it? I think it was Harry Viljoen. Was Harry Viljoen before him, if I'm right? There I was also included in the squad, and I think Harry also had a very professional approach. But it's like he wasn't able at the time to really. Because he was professionally in his work, he was a very successful businessman. But still, it was, you could feel. I think it's that transition we started to make from '95 to getting into the real professional era, and every guy that came in that period of say 10 or 15 years had his way to try and make it professional. But it was always going to be a while for everybody to adapt. Even from Nick's time all the way through to Jake's time, and I think when we got to Jake, the last part of my professional era, I had the feeling that I think we're now where we should be in a professional point of view, the way that they worked with the guys, and also the way, look, Jake was already the video analysis in Nick Mallett's days, so he was there right through the whole transition, and he probably picked up what was the best way to one day when I would never have thought when he was still a video guy with Nick Mallett, he's going to become the World Cup champion one day. But I think he obviously had the experience of the transition, and I think the way he coached was probably one of the best ways to coach at that time for me, being an amateur going through that transition era to become a professional. And that's how I think we got together here in Bloem. When he started and when he gave me a chance again, and straight away the way I could see, he's got his vision, he knows exactly what he wants, he knows exactly where every player will fit into his plan. And even the fact that I didn't go with him ultimately to the World Cup, I actually left 2006 just before the World Cup. He came straight to me and he told me, this is the plan, this is how it's going to work. Some guys needs to go, and if it's not for us going, there's not guys staying. So it's always going to be somebody staying, and there's a reason why you're there. And, whether you're on the short list to maybe go to World Cup or not, and also you must remember then the politics and the quota thing also started coming in, and that also started playing a role. And I understood perfectly what he was saying to me at that stage, and at that age also for me, I just felt, look, I think I had my go. I've missed basically all the World Cup opportunities there was, and if it wasn't going to be with Jake, then it wasn't meant for me, And I made peace with that. I had a great experience all my career. I did basically a 12-year career totally in rugby, and if you look at where I'm coming from. As a child and where I've ended up, I'm just thankful all the way. It could have gone completely different for me, if you know my history from child, but it didn't, and that's what. And I felt there with Jake, it was a good time. I played, I think it was 2004 till 2006, yeah. And we had good tours. I've had good opportunities. He gave me ample time to play. I was lucky to earn more money also there, because at that stage the guys were making way more money than we made in those years in '98 when we started playing, So I was just thankful of whatever opportunity and whatever I can receive, and yeah, so that's what I experienced from Jake. I think it was a good time that I had there also.
Gaffie, you speak about your career possibly going in a different direction. I think there was certainly a school of thought in the late 90s that thought that perhaps what was going to happen is Henry Honeyball would retire and you would take over from him as the Springbok 10, probably with Franco Smith as 12, or in an alternative scenario, Franco would be 10 and you would be at fullback. But it didn't work out that way. What do you think about that?
Different coaches, different ideas. If you look at 98 all the way through to Jake White in 2006, there was different coaches. It was going to be Nick, and then it's going to be, I think after him was it was Harry Viljoen, and then it was what's his name now?
Rudolf Strauly.
Australia, yes, that's it. Kamstaldraad. I missed that one, and then it was Jake. So it's four. So if you look at a career of maybe 10 to 12 years, 4 different coaches in a Springbok camp, it was every single one of them had different ideas. So I also started off. Yes, the timing for me, looking back at it, the timing for me coming into the system was actually perfect because I came in as a youngster at 20 years old. And Henry was gonna retire soon, and then you have all the World Cups. If you look at it, it was actually 3 World Cups that I was able to play in my time, and I thought, I was actually even looking at it, and besides maybe bad injuries, I can only do well because I know I've got the talent. I know I'm a good rugby player. I just got to work hard and focus and whatever, have a bit of luck also, and then you can actually have an excellent future coming. So, but it didn't work out like that. I had bad injuries. I stopped playing rugby. I stopped playing fly half. And like you just said, that's also the thought was becoming the next 10 in Henry's place. But then again, I became a 10, and then suddenly 10 wasn't going to be. It's going to be more fullback. That actually started with Nick already, and then, like you said, Franco became more the 10 and me, and then I was competing against Percy at fullback, and then because Percy was still not a youngster, but he wasn't going to retire soon, then it became a thing of Gaffie's actually a good flyer and a good fullback, so he's actually going to become a very good backup for both these positions. And then with Jake, it actually became like a Joe Roth kind of player where I can be a wing, a left wing, and a fullback because I was a lefty kicking left, same as Joe Roth. And I wouldn't say the same style as he's had, but I think Jake always thought that I was going to be between those 2 positions. I can play fly half, but I think it was for him it was Jaco van der Westhuys and I think it was Butch James and those type of players that he wanted at a fly half. Me being versatile I was a longer, taller guy, more like a better suited for a wing or a fullback. I had good pace. I was a lefty. So it's for him, I feel like because he was such a big, ACT Brumbies fan at that stage also, Jake, and a lot of the game plan was based on a lot of stuff they did, that I felt very much like a Joe Roth kind of player at that stage who played left wing and fullback, So yeah, different coaches came in different ideas, and that's it basically what it comes down to, And for me, it was just okay. Whatever they do, I'm just going to be the best there, and I could always go back now and say, listen, you never played fly off and became the number 1 flyer, but my next goal then was whatever position they're going to play me, I want to become a Springbok in that. And so I'm happy that they shifted me I became a flyer, in Springbok flyer, and then they shifted me fullback. And I became a fullback, a Springbok fullback, and then there was talks about it being a left wing, and I became a left wing, also a Springbok. So for me, it was then that's the next thing. Then if I don't know where people want me, but wherever they want me, I'll show them I can be for one day at least for 80 minutes. I'll be the best in my country, whether it's wing or fullback or flyer, and that was my next goal. And I just took it as this.
I know people listening to that answer will be dying to know, Gaffie, which was actually your favorite position.
I must say, I grew up as a fullback since school, as a fly half since my school days. And the funny thing is, those days at school, it was like, who kicks the ball the furthest, he becomes the fly half. And so in my heart and in my head, I always understood the fly half game because I played it since I was very small. But looking back at it now, if I had to have it again, I probably would have become a better fullback if I had to focus only on that. And for the simple reason, if you go back and look at who was our best fullback before my time, and that was Andre Joubert. And if you look at the style that Andre played, if you look at he was also a lefty. He was also a very quick guy, and he was a tall, big guy. Similar, we had a similar build, a similar playing style, we left-footed. We had all good skills, hand skills, ball skills. We had everything. Then I should have maybe played fullback, from the start. That's probably what I should have. But if I ask Andre Markgraf this question, he'd probably say there's no chance in hell I was the best fly ever, and he would have believed in that. And that's it. I just basically played wherever they wanted me, and I was lucky to be a versatile player like that. I would always say there's the good players, then there's the excellent players, and then there's those that play wherever you put them, they become Springboks, and that's us.
Absolutely. Gaffie, you mentioned earlier that you missed out on the opportunity to play at the Rugby World Cup, even though there were so many years that came by and given your age and all of that. However, having said that, you did help the Springboks win the Tri-Nations in 2004, even though you only played in the one game, but you were part of the setup, so you did help us win. What did that feel like?
No, that's excellent. I've got a big photo here just in my office of that game. And me and Brent Russell, we were on the bench that day, I remember. And we, I realized, I looked at Brent and I saw him being down and not like disappointed, but you would have liked to be on the field all the game and play it and be part of that winning match. But looking at that stage, the fact that at that stage came from 98, 99 with where all the experiences I had, all the disappointments I had, all the whether it was with a coach or whether it was injury or whether it was missing out every time on the World Cup or whatever, for me at that stage, just to say that I'm now part of a squad that has won one of the biggest tournaments in the world, for me it was the same as being on the field for 80 minutes. It was I had a couple of minutes right at the end, and it was, for me, it was just being part of that squad, because it's, at that stage, like I said, we started off in an era where reserves were just people coming on when somebody's injured, where we ended up being in a more professional setup where reserves became impact players, as we know today, and you are absolutely part of the whole squad. And there's actually no number anymore. It's just 22 players, and you started understanding at stage that they can't be without you. You have to be there, just from a not just physical but psychological point of view. And the players on the field know that they can do their best because they get the pressure from the bench, and the coach can also know that whoever he puts on is burning with such eagerness to be on the field that whenever you put them on, they're gonna leave it all out there. So you are absolutely part of that team, even if you're only on the field for 5 minutes. So, and that's also something that only came over the years that I had experiences and all the disappointments of missing out. So I just appreciated that so much at that stage, that it felt like winning a World Cup to me. Yeah.
Gaffie, who was your toughest opponent?
It's difficult. Probably when I started playing against Andrew Mertens, yes, I always respected that guy as a fly-half. I also played against him, for I think it was the Sharks against the Crusaders as a fullback. I played against him. It is absolutely the most difficult guy to play against because he was so accurate with his kicking that if you're not fit that day, you're going to run your ass off that day after a guy that knows how to kick, who knows the game, who knows where his space are. So he was absolutely one of the best players I played against and most clever players I played against. But then also, after him at a flyer position, a guy like Carter was a youngster coming in, but even, with whether it's at national level or at Crusaders against Stormers, where I played for the Stormers against him, he was obviously a very good player, a lot of respect there. It's probably those are two fly-half positions that I could say is the toughest guys that I played against and that I enjoyed looking and playing against and also learning from. Even when we played against France in my very last test in 2016, I was fortunate to leave South Africa and play for Toulouse, and then a lot of those guys who actually won us that day on Newlands, I played with them in France. And there was a guy, Yannick Jean-Jean, he played 12 inside center. One of, if not the best ever player that I not just played against but played with as well. I don't think I've ever played with a more talented and just clever but also a good person. A nice person, nice guy. So yeah, those are a couple of names that comes up now quickly. That I can think of. That was guys I really respected. It was tough opponents, but also not just tough. They were good players. I really respected them.
Who is your current favorite player, would you say?
It's actually difficult to say because the days it's changed so much at the moment. With us playing in different competitions and all over the world, and the seasons that's changed now. Told my son the other day, it's so different now. To think that we're playing over Christmas and New Year's and rugby, and it's something that didn't exist at our time. But just I don't know, actually, Peter. To be honest, looking at the national side now, a guy like Moody that's coming through now, youngster. I think he's got a lot of skill there. Is it Moody? Yeah, that's what's it?
Kanan Moody, yeah.
Caden Moody, yeah, that's it. I like him. Just goes to show I don't watch a lot of rugby. I've got 4 kids, so I'm quite busy with my own kids in sport. So yeah, looking at the national side, I think a guy like Pollard at the moment, it took me a while to really, think that he's our answer at fly-half. But I think the couple of games highlights I saw he played for, was it Leicester Tigers recently, and his leadership, I think just from a player point of view and what going forward now in the World Cup, I would say that he's the guy that I would look at now if he plays, and that I like the way he's also over the years found his rhythm there at fly-half, and a good balanced player, and he should actually be, he's very close to being a captain of the Springboks for me as well. He's so I've heard him speak a couple of times, and he's I think I like him. I like his way of playing, and I hope he's going to be our answer there for the World Cup also, because it's just over the years we had so many different fly-halves, and after the Henry Honeyball and the Nas Botha and those eras, we had so many chop and changing on the fly-half position, and you would always think, why in a country as South Africa where there are so many fly-half, why do we always have to chop and change those guys all the time? But I think he's the one that I would look at now, and I like to look at his game when he plays. The other guy, actually, Kurtley Arendse. Kurtley Arendse is actually the one guy that I very much like to see more often in the Springbok side. Yes, he's he's such an explosive. I think he's the one guy besides now Cheslin Colby. I mean, we all know Cheslin, and he's been a World Cup winner and everything. So obviously all the respect to him as well. But just this Kurtley Arendse is for me one of the players that you can't keep your eye off him. He's, for me, if he gets the ball, he's always busy. But there's a lot of off the ball stuff that he does that I also like seeing. Cleaning out and tackling and defense, and how he puts himself in the game. That's actually, I don't know why I didn't think about him, before talking about all the other guys that I mentioned. For me, he's the one exciting player that I really like watching. It's just a pity he's playing for the Blue Bulls, because I'm not a Blue Bulls fan.
Gaffie, my viewers by now, they know that I grew up in Cape Town and obviously supported Western Province and the Stormers. So from a local point of view, I'm not really a Blue Bulls fan either. But Gaffie, tell me, what was is there a particularly funny moment that you can share with us from your time with the Springboks?
Well, there's the one thing is, I don't know if it's funny. I'm just thinking about it now. I know that one tour that I just told you where with old Nick Mallett in the start, where we, besides all the fun makers in the team, like old Smiley and even Rusty, these were all the guys who made all the things happen, the jokes and funny jokes in the team. I remember the one day we, on the exercise of Nick Mallett, at a go at one or two of us. It was me and Lawrence Venter and Robert Markham, and he said something that Philip Smith didn't like a lot that day, and I can't repeat what he said, unfortunately not. But old Philip Smith came running out of that ruck or scrum or wherever they were busy with the forwards, and he actually took on old Nick. And at first we had quite a laugh about it, but then because the way he did it was, old Philip is a Boersian, he's from the farm here at Burgersdorp. He's a big bloke, big strong oak, and with his, I don't know, I can't remember if he tried speaking English that day. I don't know what came out of his mouth, but whatever he said it was funny, and it was it was very cool because he was obviously protecting us, team members and the old Springbok guys there in the group, and such a good thing, and such a funny thing, which I think was for us, it was funny, and for us it was actually, we had a lot of respect for Philip doing that, but I think that also cost him his future in the box, because after that Philip really didn't play a lot for the box anymore. So that's a short story, and not really a funny one maybe, but it's something I think of now that was for me at the time very funny and cool, but also that something was a bit sad, because old Philip, I don't think he ever made it again there.
Bit of a bittersweet one, that. Gaffie, what are you up to these days?
Peter, I'm in the packaging business. After I stopped playing, I met in George. I met a guy and who took a business over from his dad, who passed away 2 years before that. And he also just at that stage, he came back from overseas, where he was high up in a corporate company, and his dad started the company about 30 years ago, and we manufacture and distribute flexo packaging, and it's more specifically in my area. It's different packaging. Flexo packaging could be high-end stuff that you put muesli and dog food and stuff like that, or cat food in. But these pretty bags with the Ziplocs and all those things, or down to the basic stuff that I more focus on in my area, because the industries here and the commodities here is maize meal, and it's cake flour and bread flour, and it's fertilizer and these kind of things, and those are the bags that you put those products in. We manufacture and we distribute that. So it's basically a packaging business. So we got the factories that manufacture those packages for these different industries. And I myself live in Bloem, and we're not a big company. We basically 3-4 guys, and we are partners, and we distribute this different packages all over the country. And I focus more on the central area, which is Free State, Northern Cape, a bit up to the northwestern Gauteng, a bit to Natal as well. But then we cover basically the whole of South Africa with the packaging we do. And I am more focused on the farming community and farming, because like I said, in Joburg, I got a partner there, and he focuses more on the corporate stuff, like, the USN, all these protein powders. In the old days, it used to be in those big tins with the lids on the top that you screw on. I think you still get those, but nowadays they're in these packages that you can tear open, and then you empty it and you Ziploc it again. So he's actually managing that account for us, So we're supplying that type of packaging, which is more the high-end stuff. So that's what I'm busy with these days. If you had to tell me 20 years back, that's what I'm going to do after rugby, I would have said, no way. But I mean, that's what I'm doing at the moment. And it's funny enough, in COVID, we realized a simple thing like a bag for maize meal, how necessary that would be, because people still need to eat, So yeah, it was very blessed. We were very blessed to still do well during that tough period that we had to go through.
Sounds good to me. Gaffie, let's finish off with a look at the trivia question again. In 2000, the Springboks received a new shirt sponsor across the chest area. Name the brand. Do you know the answer, Gaffie?
I'm going to take a guess. Is it Castle?
That is the one, Castle Lager. Gaffie, let me say, it was lovely having you on Front Row Rugby today. Some fascinating stories, and thank you so much for sharing those. I'm sure that the viewers thoroughly enjoyed listening to that as well. And I hope that we can have you on again in the future.
It was all a pleasure, Peter. It's nice meeting you too. Nice having you here. And yeah, it was good to talk again. And as you can hear, I had to really use all my Bloemfontein English. So after this, I'm done. I had to go. I've used everything I had. So I hope it was not too bad.
Gaffie, if I may say, I thought that your English was excellent.
Delicious. Okay.
Last time on Front Row Rugby, former Springbok captain Gary Teichmann was my guest. You can go and watch that video. It's appearing on your screen right now. Next time, I'll have 1995 World Cup winner and 1998 Tri-Nations champion, Krano Otto. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, why not tackle the like button? You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content from Front Row Rugby. See you next time.